question of whether or not the IDF has committed war crimes during Operation Protective Edge is not somewhat of an easy question. The question is whether or not IDF follows international humanitarian law, the laws of armed conflict, is the one question. Whether or not war crimes were committed is a different question. Not every violation of the laws of armed conflict is a war crime, but then again, whenever there is suspicion, there is evidence that the war crimes might have been committed, the IDF is obligated to conduct an investigation. Such evidence, such claims could rise up either from the IDF itself, from the Board of Commission of the UN, from humanitarian organizations. No matter where the information is coming from, the IDF is obliged to examine this kind of suspicions, and for that purpose the IDF, the Military Advocate General's Corps, are conducting investigation. They are issuing reports, and as long as the IDF modus operandi, the main operation, the general concept of how to operate during an armed conflict is in line with the laws of armed conflict, it's the burden of the IDF to prove that even the smallest suspicion is false. Otherwise, people should be investigated and indictments should be issued. The question whether or not there are arms, there was military equipment in UNRWA schools is a non-question anymore. UNRWA has identified these kind of weapons, these kind of rockets, and actually told Israel and told Hamas, take away these weapons away from here. The question is whether or not they knew about it before. And had they known about it before, it was their responsibility to evacuate the weapons before any conflict would begin, before the UNRWA schools would be used as military objectives. Because once military objectives are identified, and if fires is being shot out of UNRWA schools, then the IDF has legitimacy to attack UNRWA schools, while taking care of question of proportionality and trying to minimize any collateral damage that could arise from such an attack. The humanitarian organization, the responsibility, I don't think that any humanitarian organization, or UNRWA for that matter, has any interest to support terrorism. Their aim is to help the non-participating civilians in the area, in the Gaza Strip. So to claim that they are supporting terrorism organizations, I think it's a bit far-fetched. However, they should be very careful in their operations in order not to support any military activity of such organizations. The use of civilians as human shields and fighting from within urban area is not a new concept in international law, in the laws of armed conflict, in any armed conflict. We've seen that in past world wars, we've seen that in the Vietnam War, we've seen that in a lot of cases before. It's not unique to this area, and it's not unique to this age. What the laws of armed conflict allows the deaths of civilians. They don't operate in favor of that, but not every death of a civilian equals a war crime. And therefore, when the IDF knows that a civilian might be harmed from its attack, then it has full responsibility to do anything in its power, everything feasible, to minimize such collateral damage and, if possible, to avoid from that. It is the IDF responsibility to avoid from that, but it's not the IDF responsibility for every casualty, every civilian casualty in the Gaza Strip. There is some responsibility, there is the concept of responsibility of the Hamas over the deaths of civilians being used as human shields. It's not clear-cut situation. Both sides bear responsibility, but it's the IDF responsibility to minimize the damage, while it's the Hamas responsibility to not put their civilians in that situation to begin with.